Welcome. I'm Stu Patterson. I'm a technical sales engineer here at Symetrix, and today we're going to discuss our xIO Bluetooth, the Symetrix xIO Bluetooth, and what it is, what you can do with it, and just all generalities, and we can get into that in just a second here. But what I wanted to say first and foremost, that the xIO Bluetooth, what it is, it's a full-featured Bluetooth 5.0 chipset, which allows the Bluetooth to offer extended range, a stable connection, and really good audio quality. Let's see here. Let's move forward. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So this is it. As you can see, we have it available in both US and EU form factors. It's very, very clean looking. It's very slick. We did that intentionally because we wanted it to match the Decora faceplates as well as the EU standard wall plates, but to make it look as modern as humanly possible, especially with that blue glow. It's IP controlled, PoE powered. It simplifies your installation. It allows a single cable connection from the xIO Bluetooth to a PoE-enabled network switch or an injector, depending on your network, how you create it. It may be configured to allow media-only connectivity, bridge, phone bridge connectivity, or both. All aspects of the xIO Bluetooth can be controlled using Symetrix remotes, SymView panels, and third-party control systems. Okay, now let's go along this. So, as we stated before, it's available in a single gang format. Now, we do have an extender that is coming out that I cannot give you a timeline on, but it'll be an extender that makes this a two-gang unit, much like the other devices you've seen out there with both Bluetooth connectivity and analog I/O. That's forthcoming. I, again, don't have a timeline. It's available in black or white. As I stated, it's PoE powered. It's all Dante audio. You can set pin security on it. This is fully managed by Symetrix. You can actually change it on your control screens as well. You can select it to have single or multiple pairings, and what that means is you can set it to where only one pairing at a time, which means when you pair the device, if someone comes along and pairs again, it clears that pairing, the previous pairing, or up to 7 at a time in a round-robin kind of orientation, which means up to 7 people are paired, and then once the 8th comes in, the oldest pairing will be cleared. Now, the selectable modes are, like I said before, is media only, phone only, or both. That just simply means you can set it up to where you can just play music. And a good example is what you're hearing right now. I have my phone right here playing Pat Metheny in the background into this stream. So right into our Bluetooth over here. So I can give you a demonstration live, and I can even control it. Let's go ahead and turn off Pat Metheny. Mute him for a second, and then continue. All right, Pat, I'm going to keep playing you in the background. But it's just useful for that kind of environment, setting up like ambient music or just connecting directly like in a workout situation or a workout room. And as I said before, it was Bluetooth 5.0. That's the latest iteration. And we also have an LED blackout mode, which means in certain installations, they don't like lights when an object is not being utilized. So it just blends in with the background. So you have that ability. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at, right now, this is my setup in Composer for this webinar, or just in general. This is what we have when we're streaming. So as you can see, we have 3 different areas. So we have the in from the Bluetooth. So we have the studio Bluetooth here, going to a summer, and then going to our matrix mixer, which I can route it wherever I want. Generally, I'm not going to route it back to itself, except for in a phone call. But in this case, I'm routing it to our studio out. And then I have a microphone that can, Daisies. There we go. I clicked when I should not. Anyway, as you can see, I have my studio mic, which I'm speaking to now, routing through the rest of the system. And then I have an analog mic for phone calls because I can sit in our studio right here and make a phone call utilizing this microphone and the speaker you can't see behind us, which is kind of handy in some cases, but it's a good demonstration. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Composer real quick. 1 second, let's end my cam. You don't need to see me anymore. Let's see here. Right. All right. So first and foremost, in 8.0, that's when we introduced it. So where is the Bluetooth device? Well, if you go over to our, let's see here, to our Dante-enabled analog I/O expander section in the toolkit, that's where you'll find it. You'll find it under xIO Bluetooth. Just like any of our other modules, as you can see here, I already have it placed, but you can just pull it from the toolkit and then discover it as any other device. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and come back to it. So let's just go from the beginning. And then you can see here, locate it like any device. You can flash the unit as well, and it flashes between green and sort of a purplish color. Okay, and then select the hardware unit. And then once that's done, you can actually, we have the ability to control the xIO Bluetooth via our new intelligent modules. So once you drag in your xIO Bluetooth, once you go into your DSP and go into intelligent module section, it'll create your Dante device module. So you can go ahead and pull that in, and yes, and that gives you control of the unit. But we'll get back to that. So let's go ahead and talk about the settings first and foremost. So from the overview, from the site view, what can you do? Well, you can come over here to the properties once it's selected, and you can have these settings available to you. So the front panel settings are going to be effectively that. So front panel pairing means the button on the front that you saw earlier in the photos. So it's just that button. So if you can enable it, a person can go up, press the button, and then scan Bluetooth devices with their phone, and then find it, pair to it. Or you can disable it, which means that button does not function. They go up, they press the button, doesn't work, depending on your install needs. Now, we also have PIN changes, or the password number changes. It's a 4-digit PIN number. So we can set it to where a PIN change will disconnect current pairings or not. If you have it disabled, which is by default, when you change the PIN, it doesn't disconnect the current connections. And the same thing with PIN changes clears settings. So if you look at it, PIN change clears pairings, which means when you change the PIN, it will clear all pairings, including like in the multiple mode. If there's 7, it'll clear all those pairings. So you can have it set to do so when you change the PIN or not, depending. This is useful for some instances, just for clearing pairings for the day simply by changing the PIN number from one to another. I have mine set up, or had mine set up for a test where on a schedule, it would change at midnight the PIN number from 0000, which is default, to whatever, 1234 for this example, which would clear all the pairings, and then it would go back in another, after about 1 minute, another preset would trigger going back to 0000, just to clear pairings. So Now we have over here, we have the audio bridging mode, or what you can do with the unit. So it specifies if it should be media playback, which is A2DP, phone calls, which is HFP, or both at the same time. The connection mode is going to be either, as I said previously, was either single or multi. And again, it specifies if connection mode is for pairing a single device, and it disconnects any currently connected device and erases all previous pairing information, or multi, again. Then down below, we have the sleep mode settings. So all this does is specify, and sleep is effectively either just the unit LED going invisible, or whether the unit will sleep as in non-discoverable, which is what radio silent is for. So if it's disabled, the unit will just go to sleep, as in the front LED panel will dim down, but you'll still be able to discover it. If it's radio silent, it will not be. So it'll turn off the unit actually, as well as turning off the LEDs. All right, so let's move forward. Those are those settings. Now, by default, it should be mentioned, this unit is set up to where you can buy a Bluetooth and you don't necessarily need a DSP or composer. You can just add it to your Dante network and pair it to a device and just do your routing within Dante controller. So we make it possible to add the systems without actually having a DSP or composer by default, just by pulling it out of the box. And that's the reason why we have the settings as they are, like front panel enabled, pin changes disabled, and then the phone modes. So we do that intentionally. Now, in order to change the mode, of course, you have to have composer, and you have to have a locating DSP. But out of the box, it's ready for media. Okay. Now let's go into the programming a little bit. So, as I said earlier, we had the ability to drag in the intelligent module to control the Bluetooth settings. So it's rudimentary, but it does function pretty well. So in this case, we can go ahead and connect offline, which means the actual site file does not need to be online to connect to it. We can simply connect to the unit and control it without Composer being pushed or pulled online. And we can also flash the unit, and the unit will flash again to determine which unit we are discussing. Now, it should be noted that every Bluetooth device, or xIO Bluetooth, has its own intelligent module. So if you have 10 xIO Bluetooths in your teeth or tooths, I'll call it tooths because why not? You have 10 Bluetooths in your xIO Bluetooths in your site file. Each one will have their own individual intelligent module. So they are based on the, as you can see here, because the Dante name, Dante IP, let me try that one more time in English. Dante IP and Dante Mac are both specific to the device. So that's how you can tell. Now, what can you do with the intelligent module? Well, you can instantly pair, much like if you were to disable the front panel pairing, you would need to do so here by pressing that button. And you can also physically disconnect what is already paired, which I just did. So now my phone is no longer connected, and I'm gonna go ahead and clear the pairing. So now I would have to repair my phone to the Bluetooth. Now, earlier I had mentioned that that security pin, but by changing it, it clears the settings. You can also set up logic to just automatically press the disconnect button. But, you know, it's always nice to be able to do fun things with logic, like changing the security pin just on the fly. But this is where you would do so. So this is the only place you can change the security pin, and it is 4 digits. And then once you've done that, it's going to set it. And then you have to unpair and repair in order to affect the changes, just like with any Bluetooth device. And with media, we can go ahead and control it if we're paired. So I'm going to go ahead and repair because I want to play around with the settings a little bit. So let's go back to Pat Metheny. And hold on a second. Now because I increased the volume and I changed the audio settings, this may sound terrible. So let me know in chat if the audio from Pat Metheny confuses the webinar software again. So 1 second. Go ahead and hit pair now. Okay, I'm going to start talking again and let me know if the software goes crazy again. So I'm just controlling music with the super mod or the intelligent module. Okay. And it works pretty well. So on the fly, as long as you're paired or your device is paired and it is compliant with the protocol, it will function. Of course, there are some cheaper devices that don't follow these protocols that won't function. But a good majority of them, especially cell phones, will function. Seems okay, but it's not great because of the web compression. Yeah, I wish I could do something about that, Rob. It's frustrating, but it's the software that we're using, unfortunately. So it's not a good representation of the audio. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the music so it doesn't confuse the software. It is what it is exactly. So now you'll notice also in the call audio that we don't have a volume control, but we do have a mute. Now I can't show you that because we're not on a phone call together, but this is where you would mute the output to or what's going to your Bluetooth for the phone calls. Now let's take a look at our programming here real quick. So this will give you an indication of how to set up the Bluetooth for phone calls, because think of it as when you go in your car and you pair your phone with your car and you start talking, you're no longer utilizing your phone as the receiver, as the, I should say, speaker or microphone. It's your car now. It's the same concept with the DSP. So you have to find a way. So this is how we route things back and forth between the devices. So we have our input from the Bluetooth. So that's going to be what's coming from the Bluetooth, and that's going to route to our speaker system. And that's what we have here. So we have the 2 channels, because we have 2 channels in and currently 1 channel out back to the Bluetooth. So even though it says 2, it effectively marries them together. So we have the 2 channels coming. So right now, what we're hearing is this. So when I'm playing the Pat Metheny, that's what we're hearing. We're hearing the output from the Bluetooth getting to the analog outputs, that route. But if I were to utilize my analog microphone or any kind of microphone for that matter to go back, so that would, let's pretend that this analog mic right here is going to be picking up where in our little studio, which we do have a separate one, and sending back to the Bluetooth to be transmitted through your phone to the far end. So that's the basic setup. So it's a little crossed from what you typically think, because it's very location centric, because you do have to think about it as, okay, my phone is the bridging device. Where's my mic going? Where's the far end coming from? So, but that's the basic setup. And this is about as basic as you get for a phone call situation. I mean, if you don't need the phone call, I mean, literally you can omit these and there's your media playback. But for utilizing phone calls, this is what you need. So you need to have that crossability. So let's see here. What else did I not talk about? Okay. That's about it. So it's very simple. It's very powerful. It's a great device. We use it here for our own music needs. Like I have one on my desk, of course, so I can beam my phone audio into my Symetrix system on my desk, and so I can actually listen through my good headphones. I have a pair of Audio Technicas, but that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and come back on. And now, are there any questions? Question 1, what's the range of the Bluetooth? What's the range? Well, that's a good question because nobody knows, because it's dependent on your location. So we can't give a definitive range. We can only go by the Bluetooth 5.0 specs, which that has its own specs for absolute range. But in our environment, the range can be anywhere from, like, if I have my Bluetooth in the studio, which is, we have these solid walls in this little studio, we call it the crate. We can have somebody walk about a good 60, 70 feet, and that's through the building and that's through everything else before we finally drop off. But it's not something we can, it's not Bluetooth. Yes, it's not Bluetooth long range mode. No, it's Bluetooth 5.0. It's based on that spec. So we really can't state. Then yes. So if long range mode is part of 5.0, then yeah, I would have to say yes, but don't quote me on that, because that's one thing I don't know, and I should not speak emphatically on it, and I need to ask our engineers, Rob. But as far as I'm aware, everything that can be implemented into 5.0 we have, as far as I'm aware. But I will get back to you. Hold on one second. There's a question right before you, Rob. Can I control all the parameters with the arc web? Yes. So that's one thing I failed to mention. So let's go back. And okay, I deleted my xIO Bluetooth, so I had to re-advise. So let's go ahead. Let's open up the intelligent module, and let's export this to a control screen. So we can use our control screen, which you asked about ArcWeb, but I'll get to that. So you can actually export this to SimView and utilize it on a SimView panel, on a T5 if you structure it correctly, or on the control server, just like any other control screen. And for ArcWeb, yes, it's a parameter that you can affect. So you can go into the parameters on the intelligent module, and you can set up to remote control, and you can set it up to ArcWeb. So let's go back up here, as you can see. So let me go do that again. So let's pair now, set up for remote control, drag this over, and assign it to an ArcWeb. So yes, you can control the parameters with an ArcWeb. If it's an exportable parameter, you can do so. Okay. Okay, specialty filters. What are you doing there? What do you mean? What am I doing where, Rob? Oh, here? Oh, in the program itself? Is that what you mean, Rob? I'm not doing anything currently. That's just there as an example. Now, this is the specialty filter here is our British EQ. And then up here is going to be a high and low pass. So I have high and low pass on the inputs of the mics, just to give it to take out a lot of the low end, especially below 100 on an analog mic, because you don't need that. You don't need that rumble. And then a lot of the hiss on the top end I take out with a high pass filter. So that's what I got there. You're welcome. Okay, any other questions? And with that, thanks everybody for joining me, and take care. Have a great day.